Environment and Regeneration Committee meeting of the new year. Hope you were well rested. I'm going to ask Karen just to read the notice and summons the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. To all members of Environment and Regeneration Committee, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Environment and Regeneration Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting to be conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, Wednesday the 17th of January at 4 p.m. And I'll take the roll call. Alderman Derek Hussey.
Aye.
Thank you. Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Alderman Julie Middleton.
Here online.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr.
Here.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Is he online? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor John Boyle.
Online,
Thank
Karen.
you. Thank you. Councillor Caitlin Deeney.
And shut.
Thank you. Councillor Alex Duffy. Is it online? Yep. Councillor Brian Hart.
Alan Shaw, online here, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Emma McGinley. Oops, online.
I'm online as well. And shut.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Rory McHugh is in the chamber. Councillor Patrick Murphy is in the chamber. Councillor Declan Norris is in the chamber. Councillor Martin Riley. Oh, Councillor Riley. Apologies, okay. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Karen. Is there any members' apologies that hasn't been stated already? No. So I'll move on then to item 3, which is the broadcast statement. I'd like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the Guildhall or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website at www.derrystrabane.com. Item 4 then, members, is declaration of members' interests. Any declarations at present?
Chair, if I could just declare that I'm on the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group. There's an item just in relation to waste contracts that's coming up.
Okay, that's Councillor McGinley. Other members' declarations. Okay, we'll move on then to our next item, which is our deputation. And I'd like to welcome Nicola Carruthers here today, who's presenting to Council on the Keep Recycling Local. So hand over to yourself.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you for allowing me to come today. I'll not take up too much of your time because I know you've got a very long agenda. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm trying not to speak with my back to you because I'm sitting here. But no, I'm here on behalf of a local campaign called Keep Recycling Local. I'm not here on behalf of any one company, and nor do I work for any of the member companies. So I'm not a technical expert. If anybody has any specific questions that I can't answer, obviously I'll try and find out for you, but I'm just here as a spokesperson rather than working for any of the individual companies. Yeah. So just very briefly, who we are. The members of our campaign are NSARC, ENVA, Bryson Recycling. Those are the 3 main members. And we're also supported by Ulster Wildlife, Coca-Cola Bottlers, Friends of the Earth, Zero Northwest, Alupro, Tetra Pak, British Glass and ACE UK. And those supporters are growing all the time, and they are quite representative of the various different parts of the recycling industry. Okay. So basically, our aim is quite simple. It is to see positive changes in the way that recyclables are collected in Northern Ireland, to ensure that what is collected in Northern Ireland stays in Northern Ireland to be recycled here. Obviously, this helps the Northern Ireland circular economy, which is something which we're all striving towards, and obviously also benefits the environment. And how we do that is by separating our recyclables before collection to avoid contamination and to maximise reprocessing within Northern Ireland. And I'm going to go into a wee bit more detail about that. But basically, in an ideal world, we would like to see paper and cardboard, glass, and then everything else collected separately rather than in one commingled bin. Thank you. So the big problem in Northern Ireland is the commingled collections, which are carried on by the majority of councils in Northern Ireland. And I'll come to this in a wee minute, but it's understandable why councils moved towards that in the past. But times are changing. We're trying to we're trying to recycle more. We're trying to have less residual waste per head of population. We want to support local companies for jobs, for investment, for the local economy. And the commingled collections means that every single year in Northern Ireland, we're exporting over 91,000 tonnes of recyclables around the globe, while at the same time, our local companies who are big employers are having to import clean recyclables from abroad. So you've got one lorry driving to Foyleport or Newry or to Belfast, full of recyclable material on the back, while at the same time, another lorry's coming in with clean recyclables from abroad, which obviously costs an awful lot of money and adds to emissions. It's a massive cost to business, to the Northern Ireland economy and to the environment. And currently recycling generates over £100 million annually for the Northern Ireland economy. Those are figures from Invest Northern Ireland way back from 2019. We suspect that it's a lot more than that now, but those are the latest published figures. So what we want to see is a change to the way Northern Ireland collects its waste. Thank you. Just in terms of the policy context in Northern Ireland, obviously recycling is a key council service. Waste management accounts for 4% of current emissions. The true figure is actually more than that, because that doesn't include any of the transport costs, any of the shipping costs. All of those are collected elsewhere, so they're not actually included in the 4%. So that 4% figure is actually a lot higher. We've got the Climate Change Act. We've got a net zero target by 2050, which means a 47% reduction by 2030. And just to put that into context, between 1990 and 2020, Northern Ireland reduced its emissions by 20%. So it's a really big ask to reduce by another 27% in the next 6 years now. DAERA has been consulting on the first carbon budget. We've got the Department for the Economy's draft circular economy strategy. And we've got DEFRA's EPR programme, which is the producer pays. And having more recyclable products for producers to use really helps them in meeting their EPR requirements and keeps their disposal costs down, which obviously then means that those additional costs don't have to be passed on to consumers. We've got, every time I look at this slide, it says the imminent DAERA consultation. It's been imminent for a while now. It was imminent last year. It was imminent in September. It's really, really imminent now. We're told from DAERA that it is likely to be published within the next month or so. And it is designed to improve the overall recycling quality in Northern Ireland and to ensure that maximum value is extracted, to ensure that the materials are kept in use for as long as possible, thus helping the circular economy. And it is likely to require councils to move to a minimum of 2-stream recycling. So there is change coming, and hopefully it'll help to put in context why that change is essential. Thank you. So basically our 3-step solution is to collect the key materials separately, as I've said, to change key legislation to incentivise local reprocessing over export. And as I said earlier, it's not really a surprise that in the past councils have focused on commingled collections. Glass being heavy obviously helps the recycling figures, and at the minute councils are judged on volume and weight of recycling, so it's no surprise that councils did move to a commingled model. So what we would like to see changing, and what is likely to be included in the DAERA consultation, is to incentivise keeping those materials separate and keeping them in Northern Ireland, and also very importantly to make information on end destinations of recycling more publicly accessible. There is a website, My Recycling NI, which is supported by DAERA. The figures come from DAERA. Nobody really knows about it. I didn't know about it until I became involved in this campaign, where members of the public can go on, look up their council and see where all their recycling material goes. It's quite interesting to do. It's not that, I think they haven't put the most recent figures on there, but it is important for people to see where their recycling goes, because we found that in public research that a lot of people actually think there's not a lot of point in recycling because sure, it all goes in landfill anyway, and they don't actually realise the importance of recycling to local businesses. Thank you. So if we keep the key recyclables separate, over 80% of those materials could be recycled in Northern Ireland versus the current between 10 and 20% currently being recycled from commingled collections. Local councils could save millions of pounds per year. For example, Antrim and Newtonabbey, which has the highest recycling figures in Northern Ireland, their website states that they're saving ratepayers approximately £6 million over the next 10 years by collecting the materials separately and selling those recyclables on. It significantly supports local businesses and provides jobs. Obviously, it lowers carbon emissions and, as I've said, stops the global export of poorly sorted recyclables. The big thing that we're trying to get across to members of the public and to councils is that none of the glass that's put in a blue bin for commingled collections is able to be used and recycled in Northern Ireland. All of that glass has to be exported. And the glass companies here are absolutely crying out for clean glass, and they're having to import it at the same time. Thank you. So basically, in terms of the UK, that just shows really the UK recycling rates. Wales, which have a fully separated model, are the top recyclers in the UK, and actually they're third in the whole world. And as I've said, Antrim and Newtonabbey are the highest performing council in Northern Ireland, and they have a separate collection system. The Republic is similar to where we are in terms of Northern Ireland. They're a tiny wee bit more, but it's hard to get proper figures. Northern Ireland is sitting between anything around about the 52% recycling. Antrim and Newtonabbey are sitting at 64%. Thank you. So basically, I'm just finishing up. In terms of end destinations and dry recycling, 3-stream recycling, that's the paper separate, the can separate and the glass separate. 80% of those products could stay in Northern Ireland and be used by Northern Irish companies, versus the less than 20% from the commingled. Thank you. And then, as I've said, the figures are even more stark in terms of glass. 3-stream recycling with glass kept separate, or even glass put into bottle banks, it all stays here. It's all used here. It's taken to Enva in Toom, and then down the road to Derrylin to Ensirk, and it's all used here in Northern Ireland versus 0% from commingling. Thank you. So basically, we'd just like council to start thinking about moving towards separation in order to help the Northern Ireland economy. Supporting DAERA in its ambition to have a single policy across Northern Ireland, basically to help with public awareness, public education, because it's very stark how different council areas, there can't be an overall Northern Irish education campaign because every council area is different. Some areas you can put glass, some areas you can put Tetra Pak type things into blue bins, other areas you can't. People are always asking, what can I put in, what can't I put in? And there's no public awareness campaign. That's one of the reasons why Wales is doing so well in terms of being at about 65-66% recycling at the minute, because they've got a national policy. They're able to do national advertising and tell people what they should be recycling and what they shouldn't. all of which goes to support the better need for public awareness and education across the whole of Northern Ireland. Okay. So basically that's all I wanted to say to you. Thank you very much for your attention. If anybody's got any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. And also, you know, if people are interested, we have taken a number of political representatives and councillors to see what happens in the glass factories, to see what it's like in Enfield, to see what it's like in Ensirk down in Derrylin. You know, it's a bit like Willy Wonka for glass. It's an amazing place to go and visit. So if anybody's interested and would like to go and visit, we'd be more than happy to accommodate that. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for your presentation. And Councillor Deeney indicated.
Gormelga Chair, I just want to welcome yourself and thank you so much for your presentation. We are happy to support everything that can be done to help support our recycling processes. As you say, it's great to aim towards seeing positive changes in the way recyclables are collected and processed, and doing this through separating our materials before collection is a great way to benefit our environment. And I also agree with you that public awareness and education is absolutely vital in achieving this, and I would love to take you up on your offer for the visit. So again, thank you so much. I found it so useful.
Thank you very much for that. Would be delighted to take anybody who wants to go, because it really is worth seeing. And just have to mention just before I go, you know, Derry and Strabane Council really were ahead of the game in this, because the council did have a strategy back in 2017 moving towards this, all focused on the circular economy. So, you know, there was really good awareness then, and it would be really good to try to push that message again.
Councillor Declan Norris.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me on. That was a fantastic presentation, you know, and like Ian concur with Councillor Deeney. We will do everything in the SDLP to help you as well, you know, and I think we are way ahead in the Derry City Council and a lot of stuff, you know. And I even see in my own household, you know, my wife's a childminder, and you see the little children, you know, coming in and they understand how to separate out their stuff, and they're very much aware of the separation of everything. And again, I would love to go up and see the factory as well. Certainly, and I think all our councillors will as well. You know, I think it's a great offer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And Alderman McMorris. Sorry, Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Nicola, for the presentation. The DUP will certainly do all that we can to help. And as a party, we so much agree of the need to do more to encourage recycling and to build on the great work that's already been done. There's definitely some excellent initiatives taking place throughout our schools to encourage our children and young people. But it is so important to widen the net and get information and encouragement out to just the general public. I mean, recycling starts at home, but I do believe that public bodies and businesses, and certainly our council, can lead by example. And I would certainly love to go to the glass factory, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues will say the same as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Unlike the others, I've been to the facility. I was there with Tom Elliott, MLA, and Mark Ovens, a Fermanagh councillor. Absolutely tremendous facility and very well worth the visit. I was shocked when I was told on that visit that the glass that I meticulously put into my bin, whether that's me washed out jam jars or whatever, don't actually, you know, aren't of any use to the facility that Enva have. I was really, really shocked. And, you know, I think, as has been mentioned, the number of folk who at their homes, whether it's their youngsters learning at school, who meticulously make sure that, you know, the tin cans are clean and they all go into the blue bin. But then to hear that, hang on, that's not working, it's extremely disappointing. We have in the past talked in the chamber about separation, collection separation. There are obviously financial issues that have to be addressed, and capital issues with regard to equipment, etc. But it's something I firmly believe that we need to be working towards. You know, we give lip service to a circular economy, and then we're collecting waste, which I presume, I'd love actually to follow our own blue bin waste stream and find out, well, you know, my blue bin, where does it go to? What happens? Is it separated out? And then what happens to the materials? I'd love to find out what happens there. And then that gives us the comparative to the separation, roadside separation, which clearly we need to be doing if we're going to honour our commitment to the circular economy. Thank you for the presentation. I can see a field of work for our officers that is emerging out of this, and I would hope that perhaps at some stage we'll get a comparative report as to mixed recyclable collection vis-a-vis roadside. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I think we actually need figures, because at the end of the day, finance is going to be an important issue, as well as the environmental issue. And finance, as far as this council is concerned, is what rate are we going to set in the future that will allow us to be able to facilitate that sort of collection. It's something we should be doing, undoubtedly, but we've got to be pragmatic as well. And I hope that we can look at that and balance the options that will be available to us. But thanks again for the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Jose, and I have Councillor Hart online.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me come in. And thanks for the presentation, Nicola. Very, very informative. But like Alderman Hussey there, I was very surprised about the recycling of glass and 0%. So that would be something that, you know, as a council, that we should really address. But like everything, there's costs involved. So I wonder what the cost benefit, is there a cost benefit analysis done if, for instance, we have to put on you know, additional lorries to collect just glass only? Does that balance itself out, you know, and a saving then elsewhere? So it would be good if we could get council to look at that. So thank you, Nicola. And also I would like to avail of your invite to the factory as well.
Okay, thank you. Just very briefly, nobody's thinking that this is going to happen overnight. You know, it is something which will have to be planned towards and work towards. Just in terms of the cost benefit analysis, the one that we have to go on really is Antrim and Newton Abbey. You know, they have moved towards this for a number of years now. So obviously the capital costs, etc., have been taken into account. But as I said earlier, they do reckon that they're saving 6 million over the next 10 years by moving to fully separate source. There is also 50% funding available from DERA in relation to moving towards these things. But, you know, nobody's got a magic wand of money. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's something which we want to see planned for and see Northern Ireland moving towards.
Go ahead, Alderman.
Andrew, it's not so much to yourself, Nicola, but obviously we're in a waste management consortium. So, you know, question to officers, you know, can we go alone on this, or do we need to be looking at this on the regional basis?
Yeah, I'm going to bring in Council Officer Conor Canning here just at this point.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chair, and thanks for the presentation, Nicola. And as you said, this council certainly has been to the forefront in trying to take recycling forward and has introduced a range of initiatives over the year, both in terms of trying to increase waste for recycling, but also to drive down waste horizons in the first instance. So the less waste we have to deal with, the better. There are a number of I suppose, processes ongoing at the moment that will impact on this. As you have alluded to, DERA and then DEFRA are leading on the EPR process at the moment. So just over the past while, I've been engaging with colleagues across the Council Waste Forum and NILGA and into Solus in terms of identifying a resource to sit on a national panel to consider enhanced producer responsibility. And as Nicola has stated there, I suppose the principles behind it are the producer pays. So if you produce glass and put glass into the market, then you must pay to have that glass recovered as well. It can't be that the ratepayer at the back end of it is picking up that cost. And that's for all, I suppose, materials where it's paper, cardboard, glass, plastic. There has been some press over recent times, certainly within the UK, about that process, and it was supposed to come in this year and it's been delayed for the year. But they're now looking to develop a national approach that would be consistent across the 4 regions. And as I say, we're working to identify a resource that can take that forward nationally and regionally on behalf of the councils. Again, within that, there are other, I suppose, schemes. There's the DRS deposit return schemes for plastics that also need to be considered. And the principle behind all of those is that if councils are collecting this material and they're collecting it on behalf of the producers, then councils should be compensated for that. Now that process has to be worked out. So there will be additional costs if we or any council decides to go down the separate collection. There are additional costs, and the argument is that if that's what the market is demanding, and that's the thing that we should be doing, then councils need to be compensated and have funding provided, not just in terms of capital, but the ongoing revenue costs associated with that. And I think that's the direction of travel that we're going in. So we're working through that process, and there will be reports coming to members as we get more detail on that and what that will look like and the potential payments to council. Recently there have been discussions with DAERA on separate collections, and again they have looked at what's called the common collection guidance. So again, as Nicholas referred to, different councils collect different things depending on where you are. And again, the ambition is that no matter where you live within Northern Ireland, you should be provided with the same waste collection services. So again, there are ongoing discussions with regard to that, with I suppose 2 potential outcomes at this stage, but I think all of those will be superseded by the national discussions on enhanced producer responsibility. So the 2 options being looked at regionally at the moment are separate glass collections and or separate what they call fibre collections, so paper and cardboard collected separately, and then everything else in another bin, or glass collected separately and all the other materials in another bin, followed up by some discussion on providing separate food waste collections in years to come. So there's a range of discussions and schemes being proposed and being taken forward at the moment. Again, following a member resolution some time back, we've been working with RAP to look at all the costs associated with these schemes. We have a draft report. The officer team have received a draft report. We're going to meet RAP. And once we bottom that out, we'll bring it to members, probably into February or March, with the costs associated with transitioning to these new collection schemes. And certainly it's recognised that in terms of a circular economy, we need to close that loop, and we need to look at keeping as much of the material within the island of Ireland, if I can say that, because there may not be the capacity simply within Northern Ireland to deal with this, but there could be capacity on an all-Ireland basis to deal with these materials that will generate employment opportunities, followed by the secondary reuse. So if we have glass that can be remanufactured into glass bottles, if we have plastic that can be remanufactured into other plastics. So I know of one local company engaged in recycling who are also engaged in milk producing and who are looking to capture used milk bottles, remanufacture them back into milk bottles again. So we have a closed circular process with regard to that. So again, there are significant processes ongoing, and again, Nicola referred to the Wales model, and it's held up as that. And I think the striking, I suppose, issue around that is the support that the Welsh authorities received from the Welsh government, and that they subsidised the separate collection schemes. And again, there's either supposed 2 models for this, either the producer pays or that councils receive additional funding from central government to take these schemes on. And I think there's merit in them all, but it will take some time to work through and arrive at a scheme that everyone is happy with. But certainly the benefits are there in terms of looking at how we collect, where we collect it, and I suppose how we use that within our economies to generate and sustain employment and wealth, and all of those things, I say, are being carried forward at the moment. The final bit is always the one we have a conundrum with, which is the tender process. So when we go out to tender, we're at the mercy of the market per se, and there's I suppose a conflict between some tendering processes and some optimizing recycling processes per se, and that is something that again will have to be thought through, and possibly in terms of the circular economy, some of this stuff can be legislated on as we move forward. So again, look, is to assure members that all of these issues are being looked at, and certainly the council is supportive of any initiative that will drive up recycling, drive down waste generation, create employment. And I suppose the final part of that, with any of that brings an opportunity to this city and district, is something that we would look to maximise on. So to say, members, just be assured that all of those processes are moving forward, and we'll have that report to you for discussion, probably into March at this stage, but it will come to you for review, and that will detail the costs, the benefits, the opportunities, and so on.
Okay, thank you for that, Conor. Members, any further questions or comments? No. So, Nicola, that's you. So I'd just like to share the committee. Thank you for coming and presenting to us today, and a safe journey home. Okay, members, we'll move on then to our next item on the agenda, which is Chair's business, and I have Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to request that we could write to relevant agencies and companies to remind and urge them to communicate with one another around road closures and roadworks. Within the past few weeks, a portion of the Trench Road has been closed by NI Water. A portion of the Duncastle Road was closed by DFI, albeit it's now on a one-way system. And a portion of the Victoria Road has ongoing gas line roadworks by Firmus, causing quite serious delays at certain points of the day. Companies and agencies shouldn't work on the assumption that rural roads are less used or that rural road users matter less. The three works have caused delays for care workers, pupils, residents and workers, and I would also note that much better signage is needed from the companies, considering the closures and delays present on the main routes into the city are either closed down to one lane or causing major tailbacks. So that's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Officers will deal with that, I'm sure, and don't envisage any opposition from council members. Alderman Hussey, did you indicate no? For force of habit.
I will say, Chair, if it's about the gas lane, that's what it is. I come up that road this afternoon, and to be honest with you, the traffic is backed right to beyond into the city, to beyond the Evertades. It's not clear. I would hate to be in that queue.
Okay, members, we'll move on then now to our next item, which is matters arising from the open minutes of our previous meeting. And I'll take pages 17 to 28, any matters arising. And I have Councillor McGinley online and Councillor Duffy. I'll go to Councillor McGinley first. Go ahead, Councillor McGinley.
Good Chair, I'll be brief on it. It's ER 273/23, and it's just in relation to the Diamond temporary parklet, and it's just to say thanks to the council officers and the relevant agencies and how quickly they actioned the removal of the temporary parklet up at the Diamond and the reinstatement of the car parking spaces. And I know there's a bit of work going on about getting a further loading bay up there, which was part of that report at the last meeting as well. So it's just to say thank you. It was we met on the Wednesday, and by the Monday the parking spaces were back and the work was completed. So as I say, it's just say thank you to Tony and the team who overseen that and made sure that it happened quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor McGinley. And I have Councillor Duffy with 2 items.
Good Chair. Just the first item is ER 216/23. What is the issue that I raised at the last ENR meeting? It was the fish kill in the Muff Glen. if there has been any further update from the two departments. Karen?
Through you, Chair, members, we had correspondence, which I think I circulated to members, basically advising us that there was not any impact in terms of drinking water in relation to that. We also asked for the department to update members in terms of the ongoing investigation into the incident. We haven't received any further correspondence in relation to that as of yet, but when that comes, I will bring that to members as quickly as possible.
I'm going to bring in Councillor Declan Norris here on the same issue.
Thank you, Chair. And just at the meeting on site at the Rivermuff, the Lock Agency Manager stated there's a police investigation now, so I think with that now we won't be brought on it, until that's ended.
Okay, and Councillor Duffy, your second item.
Thank you, Chair. The second is ER 27023. At the last meeting, I raised the issue of the Northwest Model Aircraft Flying Club. I might have got that in a different order there, but they're based out at council facilities out in new buildings. They raised an issue of the lack of facilities there, and if there was anything the council could do. At that time, council said they would have a look. It may be too soon for any response yet, but it's just to see if there's been an update, please.
Through you, Chair, members, our officers are considering that, and we'll bring back a report as soon as we can, but it's really only been a couple of weeks since Christmas, so we'll get that back as quickly as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Alderman Hussey, you on the same issue? No. Okay, I'll bring in Alderman Middleton now then. Go ahead, Julie. So Alderman Middleton there. We'll take Alderman Hussey in the meantime. Go ahead, Derek.
Oh,
Is that you, Alderman Middleton?
yeah, I'm sorry. See, the new WebEx, it just doesn't seem to agree with me. But thank you for bringing me in, Chair. I just wanted to highlight on ER 27223, and I really don't want to sound like a broken record. I know I've sent emails and asked about this quite a bit, but I just want to highlight and reiterate the brown bins issue again. I don't feel like I can stress the level of contact that I receive about this issue. I'm contacted about it all the time. And I do think it's really important that we provide a fair service for all. So I'm just asking, can we please ensure that the issue of the brown bins is kept at the forefront? It's just vitally important. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, we're in your hands on that one. That's included within the rates estimates considerations that members are currently considering, and we certainly hope that we will have a resolution to that issue in the next couple of weeks, provided members support that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. 271, keep Northern Ireland beautiful. It's really with regard to the issue on the very first line, planter provision. Before I mention it, can I say a sincere thanks to officials and staff who have now got in place the wishing well signs throughout the former Strabane area. It's taken a bit of time. I know the difficulties that there were, but can I say that it's very welcome. The majority of those wishing well signs did also have a planter provision at the base. Is it the intention that that will also be replaced now that the signs are in situ?
Through you, Chair, members, as you're aware, following on from last year's rates estimates process, we did have to roll back on our provision of planters throughout the district, and we are currently looking at how we maximise the budget that we have for this current year. So that's certainly something we can take into consideration in terms of those discussions, and we'll update members as soon as possible. I have had some discussions and meetings with the team in terms of that, and to consider, you know, members' views in relation to this particular issue, and indeed really how we work more smartly with communities in terms of some of these issues. And certainly, you know, we've agreed a number of actions over the coming weeks, and certainly well ahead of us being able to plant up planters. We'll be able to update members in relation to that. Thank you.
Again, through you, Chair, thank you for that, Karen. I would hope we can manage to reinstall those planters, because they're an integral part of what that signage was and should remain. So hopefully that can be successfully concluded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. I have no further indicated speakers on their matters arising, so that takes us then to item 8, which is the update on the mobile notice of motion, and Karen's taking this first.
Thank you, Chair. And members, through you, Chair, the purpose of this report is to update members on progress on the implementation of the notice of motion relating to the Maboy illegal landfill site, which was ratified by Council at its meeting in October 23. Members, in terms of background, the notice of motion is outlined in section 2.1 of your report. And members, since the ratification, officers have been working to consider how to effectively implement the notice of motion. Members, as you're aware, the wording of the notice of motion includes in conjunction with DAERA, and officers met officials from DAERA in order to initially discuss the notice of motion. When officers met with DAERA, the NIA officials advised that they plan to publicise and seek views on the department's proposed remediation strategy for the site in the coming weeks. And members, in terms of key issues, the notice of motion outlines the concerns of residents relating to the remediation of the illegal waste site at Maboy, and the potential for Council to develop a prepared outworking of any remediation strategy determined by the NIEA. And given these concerns, in the first instance, it would be important that Council undertake a robust and detailed review of the department's proposed remediation strategy once the public call for views in relation to the proposed remediation strategy for the site opens in the coming weeks. Officers believe that given the specialist and complex subject matter, Council will need to engage a specialist remediation consultant to lead on the review and to produce a report which will provide Council with the information necessary to provide a robust response to the Department's proposed remediation strategy. And this should allay the concerns of local residents which have been expressed within the notice of motion. Officers propose that Council urgently embark on a call for the appointment of the specialist resource in line with Council's procurement procedures. Council are now able to avail of central government procurement frameworks, and it's proposed to utilise these to identify appropriate specialists to undertake this work. By using the framework, Council will save time and money and ensure that it obtains the necessary expertise to complete which will undoubtedly be a very complex commission, while also ensuring that Council meets its legal obligations in terms of procurement legislation. And members may wish to consider if this action, shaped by the information provided by DAERA in relation to their proposed public consultation on the proposed remediation strategy for the site, if taken forward, advances the notice of motion in the first instance. Members, in terms of implications, members will be aware that the remediation of the Maboy illegal landfill site is an extremely important local issue with considerable public interest, and there will be a significant cost to undertaking a detailed review of DAERA's proposed remediation strategy. However, given local concerns in relation to the remediation of the site, it would be important for Council to be able to undertake a robust review of the Department's proposed remediation strategy, which will enable Council to provide an informed and expert response to the proposed remediation consultation. Members, there will be a significant cost to procure an expert external resource to review DAERA's proposed remediation strategy, and a further report we brought to members outlining potential costs once the procurement process is undertaken. Members, in terms of the recommendation before you today, members are asked to note the progress in relation to consideration of the notice of motion and to authorise the commencement of a procurement process to appoint a specialist resource to review DAERA's proposed remediation strategy for the Maboy illegal landfill site, and a further report will be brought to members in due course. Chair, I'm happy to take any comments that members have in relation to this.
Okay, thanks for that, Karen. I have a number of councillors indicated. The first of whom is Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not yet as well informed of the mobile issue as I would like to be. And that was one of the reasons I wrote the clarity of DAERA with a request for information, which was granted under FOA. However, I found the reply. I got the questions asked for the week, so I wrote again asking for clarification, and I'm still waiting on a response to that email. I find the whole mobile issue intriguing. The most concerning issues would appear to be whether the waste stays in the ground or is taken out, and obviously the cost. I've read the email that PCA consultants sent out to committee members this morning. And the most concerning element of that to me was that residents are of the opinion that there's been some sort of cover-up. If that's true, that's a worrying development. Why would they say that? That's something that needs to be addressed. But however, in relation to Councillor Donnelly's motion at the October meeting of full council, can officers tell us if this council has the power to advertise for public expressions of interest in relation to the remediation of the mobile site, and if so, what would be the likely consequences? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Karen.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, I can answer that question. We will bring it forward to you in a further report. Following on from today, certainly it is something that we have been given consideration to since the notice of motion, and certainly from an officer perspective, we believe that the proposals contained within the report today move along the notice of motion in the first instance, and certainly members, we can take further steps should members believe that that is necessary. I don't know if there's anything else that any of the other officers want to add to that. Happy with that.
Okay, our next indicated speaker is Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair. Karen, just say thank you to you and all the officers for the considerations and work you've put onto this. I just think it's so imperative that we do all that we can to move forward with getting a specialist team in place as quickly as possible. We'll have to just really move forward to a full and satisfying resolve for all. This is such a major issue for residents local to the Maboy site, for our local environment and ecology, but also for our full council area. I don't know anybody who isn't concerned about Maboy, so I was really happy to read the report and to see that we have got movement, and I just hope that we can keep the pace up with it as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Alex Duffy.
Good Chair. Thank you for the report. The issue of Maboy continues to be a significant concern for the residents of Faughan and the broader council area, and this will be the case until a resolution is achieved. So again, we extend our gratitude to the officers and their dedicated team for the efforts in compiling the report you did. We eagerly anticipate not only the comprehensive report from council, but also from DAERA as they reassess their current strategy. So we look forward to their forthcoming report in the coming weeks, along with council's full report as well. And then I'm sure after that, then more discussions can be had, and hopefully we can get some movement on as far as we are concerned as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Duffy and councillor Norris.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Karen. As a resident from the area, as you know, this is a massive issue. It's in everybody's thoughts, and especially now we're look as if we're coming to getting to some sort of conclusion, hopefully in the next coming weeks when they issue their report. And as for the report of the council, thank you for bringing it forward. And in principle, we fully support get the consultant. When this report is published by Dara, none of us are experts. We're no experts in sitting working out what is the right remediation or whatever. So in principle, we fully support a consultant. Now, we would like to see the cost, obviously, and the time frame of the report to be brought back to us. But if it needs to be proposed, I have no problem proposing it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillor Norris. You're proposing that. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair, for letting us in. I'm not on this committee, but I brought forward this motion. And as it's stated there on the 3.5, the questions asked, does this advance the notice of motion? And for me, and one who was involved in bringing it forward, I don't believe this report does. And for me, the biggest question that was in the motion was, we have the waste and contaminated land order. That's what we have. And the motion is stating that. And then it's asking for council to bring forward a report and say, under that order, what is our responsibilities? What is the possible implications for us? And what is the possible liabilities for us? We could wait and we could be pushed, and as everything happens, east, west, you could have Belfast and you could have Stormont saying, we're not interested, that's out of sight, out of mind. And it could go on and on and on. And we have residents that are living in this area that have major, major concerns. So if it doesn't be moved forward for remediation, what under the waste and contaminated land order is this council going to do? That's what's in the motion. That's the report that councillors would like to see. And let's see then how we can take it forward. When we are fully across our responsibilities as a council, the implications and the liabilities, should council look to seek about remediation under the waste and contaminated land order? That's what we need to see in order to advance the notice of motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, councillor Gallagher and councillor Donnelly.
Chair. Look, my opinion or position is very similar to councillor Gallagher. I don't believe that the motion has been dealt with, in this report effectively. When council officers say that further steps need to be taken, I believe that definitely there is further steps, and some of them have just been outlined by councillor Gallagher. Our responsibilities haven't been discussed in any meaningful way or within this report. To me, the report seems to be like a box ticking exercise. And just to go back to councillor Barr, when he did contact Dara and he wasn't happy with the response, I also contacted them, and I've had no response whatsoever. They haven't even acknowledged receipt of the email. So I definitely think that there needs to be further steps taken. But however, maybe I think that I can discuss them at full council at the end of the month. Thank you.
You, councillor Donnelly. We have a proposal on the floor, and is there a seconder?
Chair, I'll second.
Seconded by councillor McGinley. Have anybody against it, or can I take it as unanimous?
Chair, maybe could I just come in on a second on that? I know
Yeah,
not
go
always.
ahead, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Look, and see this report, and it goes around the issues of the original motion that was unanimously passed. As before you would pass this motion, is there anything that we can ask officers that would outline the concerns that I just done, i.e., that a report is going to come in that is going to be specifically on the waste and contaminated land order and what's council's now responsibilities in that, what's council's implications and possible liabilities in that. Are we going to see a report on that? Because that's what's in the motion. And I just think, if we move on just on that and take this proposal on its own, I think that the motion's not getting addressed. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair, members, referring back to section 3.5 of the report, I think officers had asked members if they want to consider if the actions shaped by the information provided by DERA in relation to their proposed public consultation on the proposed remediation strategy, if taken forward, advances the notice of motion in the first instance. And certainly members, if members want, we certainly can bring forward a further report. There's two options available to members. We can progress with the proposal today that's been proposed and seconded, and we can bring a further report to members specifically in relation to that issue. But if the committee wants us to defer the paper until that paper is designed, that will obviously won't be able to progress today. But members, in terms of the consideration around the proposed remediation strategy, as members are aware from the report, the department has advised us that they intend to undertake their public consultation on the proposed remediation strategy quite soon. So members, if you want to defer the paper in order to consider Councillor Gallagher's queries today, then certainly we would need to be mindful of the timeline on that. But certainly what we could do, if members wanted us to, is to bring a further report back outlining the concerns that Councillor Gallagher has raised. And that doesn't preclude members from going ahead today with the recommendation in front of them. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if you oblige me, could I respond just to that, Chair?
Sorry, Councillor Gallagher, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Chair, you see, I don't have queries, but what the concerns I'm talking about today is contained within the notice of motion that was unanimously passed. So they're not queries. They were, once it was passed at council, it became a corporate position of council that under the waste and contaminated land order, we would bring back a report that would identify what council's responsibilities and what's its implications and what's its liabilities. That's what's in the motion. So if we're going to deliver on the motion, we need to see a report on that. It's not queries that I'm raising. It's what's identified in the notice of motion. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, certainly members, we fully recognise that, and certainly this is why the report contains the phrase "in the first instance," because certainly it would be our intention to bring that forward to members as soon as possible in order to fully implement the notice of motion. However, today we are suggesting the actions for members to consider if it moves the notice of motion on in the first instance. So certainly members, I will be happy to take the steer from the committee in terms of the recommendation before you.
Okay, Karen, we'll have a proposal or proposer and seconder for the recommendation of the report. So members, I'm going to put that to the committee. If you want to take a vote, Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Alderman Derek Hussey.
For the recommendation.
Thank you. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Julie Middleton.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Stay on that, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Caitlin Deany.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Ta.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Hart.
Ta.
Thank you. Councillor Emma McGinley.
Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Roy McHugh.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Declan Norris. And I think Councillor Riley is absent. So members, sorry, Councillor Riley. Okay, thank you. So members, that is 12 for and 1 abstention. Thank you, Chair. So that carries the recommendation.
Okay, members, that recommendation's passed. Members, we'll move on then to the next item, which is item 9. It's the contract management procedure, and Connor's taking that first.
Thanks, Chair. To seek members' endorsement with regard to the enclosed draft contract management procedure to be used in managing waste contracts going forward. Following an internal audit of waste and environmental management, a recommendation was made that contract management guidelines are developed to assist council in managing waste contracts in place for all future awards. Section 2.2 sets out the key areas that were recommended in terms of managing service delivery, managing the relationship, contract administration, performance improvement, and managing change. A contract management procedure has been developed in draft form, which is included within the pack for members' consideration. Within the procedure, there also is reference to Section 8 to a contract management plan, and a contract management plan will be developed for each of the current waste contracts and will include the detailed points in Section 8. The plans will reference the roles, responsibilities, the responsible officers for council and the key contract representatives also. There are no equality, rural needs, climate change or data protection issues associated with this item at this time. The contract management procedure, including the plan, will ensure better relationships between the contractual parties, but will also ensure the compliance with the terms of the contract and mitigate any risk. These measures will help manage the significant waste contracts and the relationships to ensure value for money, proper governance and improve overall performance. And the individual plans, which will be contract specific, will specify key contract personnel with responsibilities for managing the contract and line procedures. And members are asked therefore to consider and endorse the contract management procedure as set out in Appendix 1.
Thanks, Connor. And Councillor McGinley online.
Mega Chair, and thank you, Connor, for the report. We're happy to propose the recommendation that's contained within the report. I think that having a contract management plan is a positive way to do business, and it sets out very clear expectations for all parties when it comes to doing any business for council. So we're happy to propose the recommendation in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGinley. I have a seconder. Councillor Deany. Okay, members, not sensing any opposition to that, so move on then to item 10, which is the City Cemetery extension. That's Connor again.
Thanks, Chair. And this is to seek members' approval in relation to the transfer.
Opposed, John Boyle.
Councillor Boyle, seconded by Alderman Hussey. Our next item is the grant of right burial, and that is Karen sticking that one.
I propose that again, Chair.
Proposed by Councillor Boyle, seconded by Councillor Barr, Jason Barr. Okay. Members, items 12 to 21 are items for information, so I'll go through them briefly if anybody has a question or a comment to make. So item 12 is the building control applications. Item 13 is Environment Regeneration 6-month progress report, and Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I want to look at the appendix, the progress update report, and it's in the second page of it. Item CG 12324.11 is the development of the 3.5 levelling up funded Derrick Active. It's a specific issue to an element at Castle Park that I've been made aware of today, and it may evolve around, I believe that the concerned group, which is the Derrick Fest group, may have been engaging with Kevin on this, although I know Kevin's moving out, etc., but may have engaged with Kevin on this, in that there's a concern as to the scheduling of work relative to their major event in the July period. It's envisaged that the work will not commence until the March period. There wasn't a sort of thought that it was going to start earlier than that. They're concerned then with regard to the works that are required in the grass area, where there is considerable flooding or water issue, drainage issue, which wouldn't be completed. There was a suggestion that this work would be left until after Derrick Fest, but there's a fear, if the weather is not suitable, that is going to create a real problem again in that area. So I'm just wondering, can Kevin or whoever engage with that grouping again as to a potential mitigation of their concerns outside of the schedule that is being proposed, which I understand starts with the play park. So if some mitigation outside of the agreed rolling schedule can be put in place to allay the fears of that group, and indeed hopefully assist with another successful event on that site, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to ask Colin maybe to come on that one, Colin.
Through you, Chair. Yes, I'm aware that Derrick Fest contact with Kevin today, and I think we've had a lot of engagement with all the stakeholders in the Castleberg area to ensure that any of the programme of activities that they plan on the Castle side or in the Diamond indeed are scheduled in as part of the programme of works for the contractors. And what I understand is Derrick Fest want to bring forward their programme by approximately a week. So what we would need to do is we're on the cusp of appointing a contractor. We're in the standstill period at the moment, and assuming all that goes well, we'll have a contractor appointed. And once the contractor is appointed, we will be able to have these discussions with the group in terms of rescheduling this programme of works. I believe we will be able to accommodate them, but given that these dates are part of the contract that went out, any change in that, we need to have those discussions with the contractor. So we'll keep the dialogue open, but I do believe we'll be able to accommodate in terms of schedule of works and accommodate them in their programme. But we just need the contractor on board before we can commit to that.
Appreciate it, Chair. I'm glad it's been flagged up and there is engagement on the matter. Thank you.
Okay, so item 14 is the Clooney Master Plan. Item 15 of a couple of councillors, I think. Councillor Hart.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to welcome the provision of a disabled parking space on Newton Kennedy Street in Strabane. It's something I worked on recently with residents on the particular issue, whereby due to congestion, a resident with mobility issues was unable to park outside their home. So they were actually refused in a previous application. So I'd just like to note my thanks to DFI for getting a resolution to this issue. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hart, and back to Councillor Deeney, who's sleeping there for item 14.
I was not. It was just to say that it's great to see progression here, and just to say thank you to council officers for engaging with the residents on several occasions. So, Garmabit.
And item 16, I have Councillor McGinley.
Good Chair. I just wanted to flag this up. I know it's something that my party colleague Aisling Hutton councillor also for the mayor, has been lobbying the EFI for months. People parking at that stretch of road. It's actually dangerous when you're trying to get round the corner from Freedary Corner as if you're going up to Fawn Street. Where people are parking and there's been tour buses, etc., parking there. So as much as it's good to see tourists in the city, they can't just park where they want at times. So it's positive that DFI have actioned this. And I know that Councillor Hutton's delighted that it's been presented to the committee today. So I just wanted to flag that. Yvonne, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McGinley. Item 17, I have Councillor Alex Duffy.
Good Chair, just a quick one, just to welcome the reduced speed limit on the Sally Road, just by Strathfoyle there, down to 30 miles per hour. It would have been more sensible, I suppose, to put it on the Hall Road, but nevertheless, it's still welcome, and it's a great investment to the road safety in the area, just especially after the DFA walk cycle path that they completed there a few years ago. This is just another step in that direction for safer roads in the area. So just to welcome that and get it on record. Thank you.
And on the same issue, Councillor Norris.
I'd just like to concur with Councillor Duffy. Just wondered, could we write to DFI as a council about the Hall Road? So the Hall Road's just sort of down the road from Lizzaholly Road, and there's a 30-mile sort of halfway down that road. But I think the 30 miles should be at the very top of the road, and I think Councillor Duffy would agree with me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem, Councillor. Item 19 we had earlier, which was the Mulboy update. Item 20 is the New Homes Quality Code. And item 21, the final item, matters for information, is the update in public transport task force. So no more councillors. Sorry, Councillor Norris. Sorry, item 18 was the flooding update. Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Chair, for bringing it in. A couple of weeks ago in Eglinton, there was with the excess rainfall, there was a couple of houses started to flood, sort of rainfall off the fields and then coming in. I was at one of them myself, lifting in 20 bags, to try to stop the water coming into their house and sort of on their drain. But it sort of brought out a lot of issues that day, even with the resilience group and different things, So there was a confusion if this all started. So 20 bags went out or 20 bags went out. If this all happened, all of a sudden you've depleted your bags. Who's bringing the bags? So I talked to some council officers that day. It was Christmas week, which and they took the calls. So there was confusion that DFI wasn't going to put the bags in again. But in actual fact, DFI Rivers do. They come every month, they check them, but the confusion is this. So if all the bags were depleted on the day, there's no actual phone call. You have to phone the helpline, and then they will get in contact with the supervisors or whatever. Now, some of us have numbers to supervisors, etc. Right? But there is sort of that confusion of who's bringing the bags. Now, you know yourself, when the bags are gone at that point, it's the horse is broken the stables, when we're bringing sandbags, it's sort of too late. But there's just, and I talked to the resilience officer, Laura Day was on for about an hour, talking. She's going to call a full meeting now with all the agencies. Now, one of the agencies that never really comes to the table is NI Water. I think they should. But I think all agencies, now, very important as well, this consultant that has been employed, we don't know if it's DFI Rivers or Living by Water. So I think that's important as well. And I think we do need to get them. I think that if it's a he or she, is the consultant, they need to come to this meeting. We need to start understanding what that role is of a consultant. The problem that I have is 15 million pounds was given up for the flood victims up in Newry and Downpatrick, which is needed. But that money was just moved around. That wasn't new money. So that money's been moved away from our alleviation schemes, and that's a worry to me, you know. So I think all this needs to be looked at and sort of brought tighter together. Thank you.
And on the same issue, Councillor Alex Duffy.
Good Chair, and just for you there, just to agree with Councillor Norris on the issues he raised there. Just on that same day, the local Eglinton Resilience Group reached out to myself requesting the replenishment of the salt bags that they used. It's DFA Rivers who I contacted, and they did agree and they come out, but unfortunately they believed that it didn't even need replenished. All the bags weren't even used. They stopped at the 2 points in Eglinton for them. So I'm not too sure. There was a bit of confusion there, but just for information, it is DFA Rivers, and they agree with Councillor Norris that I think it would be interesting to get that consultant to this meeting just to give us a bit of a brief on their role and to try and iron out these issues for the future. Thank you.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, sir. Can I support the issue of having the means to defend against flood in possession before the flood actually occurs? I find myself, you know, at times where we knew it was coming, but to try and get the release of sandbags, etc., was now impossible. But the question was, well, is it flooding? No, but it's going to. It hasn't flooded yet. No, it's not. You know, so the whole timing issue is one of concern. And perhaps on a parochial note, I noticed that DFA Rivers was mentioned there. I wonder, is it possible to redesignate a road as a river? Because if it was, I would be inclined to redesignate the Gavita Road as Gavita Burn and see if a better response would come from DFI Rivers than would come from DFI Roads, because I've been waiting for 6 months to meet with somebody on site. Absolutely scandalous. Thank you.
Sir Norris, briefly.
Very briefly, just like they say, so as Alex said, so that night when they came with the bags, there was only 90 bags could have been replenished, you know, and 40 bags, but on a positive note, that's still 130 bags, so that's still 7 houses if it was needed. On another positive note, DFA Rivers were very quick to come back to me for the house concerned with the water coming off the fields, and they're working with the farmer. You know, they maybe put a shotgun on that, you know, and I'm working, trying to sort out something with the house owner as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, members, that takes us to the end of items from formation. We need a proposer and seconder now to go on to committee. Who's Councillor Hussey, seconded Councillor Deeney.